Hi everyone, today we're going to learn how to use a pendulum effectively. It's something I use every single day in my practice. So I'm going to teach you what I know about it and how I use it. So other people's views may be slightly different, but this is what I know works for me. So first you choose your pendulum. This is mine that I use all the time. I have several pendulums, but this is my favorite. This is a rose quartz crystal. I like the weight on it, and I like the fact that on the chain I have a little availability for a loop that I can put my finger in there so that I'm able to hold it at just the right length there. So it doesn't have to be a crystal, it can be plastic, it can be anything really where you can get a yes and no response. So it can be weighted. You want to have a chain on it that maybe isn't too long, or that you can do what I've done, which is sort of wrap it around your finger a bit. The shorter you hold it, the quicker you'll get the response, the yes or the no response that you want from the pendulum to help you. The longer you hold it, if you're going like that, waiting for it, the longer it will take to get the response that you need. So the more you use it, the quicker you'll get at the responses that you need. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at programming. So programming is really, really simple. We're not programming the crystal itself. A lot of people talk about that. I don't believe in that. What we're doing really depends whether we're working with the high self or whether we are working with the subconscious mind. So if you're working with the subconscious mind or high self, we're basically going to say, what is our yes and what is our no? What is our positive? What is our negative? What is our strength? What is our weakness? So in terms of the spiritual response therapy system, what I learned was that the up and down, vertical, up and down, if the pendulum goes up and down, then it's a yes response. It's a positive response, and therefore it's a strong response. And I'll explain a bit more in a moment. That can also be clockwise for some people as well, if it goes clockwise. And the horizontal response going from left to right, that's a negative response. That's a no, a negative, or a weak response going from left to right. So when you first get your pendulum, you say, this is my yes response, and you do it sort of forcefully. This is my no response. And do it 2 or 3 times. This is my yes response, and this is my no response. And then keep your hand as still as you can, say, show me my yes response. And it should very slightly start to move. And the more you keep your pendulum moving, the easier it gets to get a response. So when we're sitting there and the pendulum's completely still, you might be waiting there for a whole minute before you get any kind of movement sometimes. So always keep the pendulum moving when you're looking for responses. So give me a yes response will automatically go like that. Keep the pendulum moving, give me a no response. It's much easier to get a clearer response when the pendulum is actually moving itself. Now, if you're dealing with the subconscious mind and you want to find out what beliefs and programs you are running at a subconscious level, or perhaps you want to test certain products that you're consuming or wearing on your skin, then you're working, as I say, you're working with the subconscious mind. So you never ask questions, you only use statements. So working with the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is taking everything in at all times, it's not always going to give you an accurate response to a question, but it will tell you if the statement is running or not, or if something is running or not, or if something is weakening the energy system or not. So if I had, for instance, this spray, and if this spray, this hair product here, was weakening my system, I would ask, holding this in my hand, and say, this hair product is weakening my system, keep the pendulum moving. And actually it's telling me, yes, it is. So I'll have to look into changing it because I got a yes response and I was using a statement. Similarly, with any foods that I consume, this food is weakening my system, yes, or this food is strengthening my system, no, a yes-no response. Similarly, I'm running fear of failure. I'm holding the belief that I'm a failure. and I get a yes response, or I'm holding the belief that I'm abandoned and I get a no response. So those are statements when you're working with the subconscious mind. Now, when it comes to asking questions, then I would always say that set your intention to work with the high self or high self team or higher self, whatever you want to say, or the soul. And I would say working with the high self team, this is connected to a past lifetime, this particular issue, and I'd get a yes response. It's also connected ancestrally, and I'd get a no response. So ask questions when you're working with the high self team if you want further answers or want to explore a particular avenue in order to bring about healing or empowerment of some kind. So that's the distinction to make between working with the subconscious, where you only work in statements, so you want a yes, no, positive, negative, strength, weakness response. And when you're working with the high self or the soul, then you can ask questions to get a more accurate response. It's not 100% accurate because it's always going to be coming through us, and we're always going to have a certain amount invested in us subconsciously anyway if we're asking questions to do with ourselves. So you have to be careful not to influence it in any way. It's easier when you're asking questions for somebody else, or whether you're testing statements for somebody else, obviously, if you haven't got any investment in their particular question. But with all things, just, respect the fact that it's not a 100% scientific thing. So just because the pendulum's going one way or the other doesn't mean to say it's 100% accurate. But what it is a good indication of the answer. So practice that and keep it going up and down, or left and right. As I say, up and down is positive, left and right is negative. I keep the pendulum moving to get the accurate thing. If you're still not sure, if it goes a bit crazy, just check to see if you've got any interference. So if it suddenly starts going a bit all over the place, then just ask your high self team to clear any interference that you have. And when we're clearing, we tend to go positively in a clockwise direction, certainly with the spiritual response therapy that I use. And when we go negatively, when we're downloading stuff, then we tend to go in an anti-clockwise direction for any downloads that are taking place. And then you'll know when it stops, because it just starts going up and down again. So give it a practice. The more you practice it, the more the pendulum becomes an extension of you, and you'll know what's accurate, what isn't accurate, and you'll get a feel for the pendulum. You know, also when you're using the pendulum, you're asking your high self team to clear things. You'll know that you'll be clearing because it'll start to feel lighter, and you can feel even the pendulum goes from feeling heavy to feeling lighter, light as a feather sometimes when you're clearing things. So I hope that helps. Give it a practice, and good luck.